It was a Wednesday morning, the same Wednesday it always comes, and an 81-year-old woman in Ohio sat at her kitchen table waiting for a deposit that simply never showed up. No phone call, no letter, no warning, just an empty space in her bank account where her Social Security payment was supposed to be. She wasn't behind on anything. She hadn't done anything wrong. She had simply missed one small update that millions of seniors across this country are still missing right now in 2026 without even knowing it. And by the time most people find out what went wrong, the damage is already done. If that thought makes you a little uneasy, good, because it should. Not because you need to panic, but because this is exactly the kind of thing that sneaks up on good, careful people who did everything they thought they were supposed to do. Stick with me for the next few minutes because by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what's changing with direct deposit this year, why some seniors are getting caught off guard, and the one simple habit that can keep your payment safe, on time, and out of the hands of the wrong people. Hey everyone, welcome back to Retire Your Guide, the channel where we break down everything you need to know about your retirement income, your benefits, and the everyday money decisions that actually matter. All explained in plain English, no confusing jargon, no runaround. If you're new here, this is exactly the kind of video we make every single week. So, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now before we even get into it, because we are about to cover some changes that almost nobody is talking about clearly, and you don't want to miss what comes after this. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening with direct deposit this year, because there's a real shift underway, and it affects almost every single person who receives Social Security, a pension, or any other regular retirement payment. For decades, paper checks were just a normal part of life. Your check came in the mail, you walked it to the bank, you deposited it, and that was that. But that world is closing fast. As of late last year, federal law required nearly all federal benefit payments, including Social Security, to be paid out electronically rather than through the mail. That change was set in motion by a federal directive aimed at modernizing how the government sends out payments. And the goal was simple: speed things up, cut costs, and reduce fraud. Today, fewer than 1% of Social Security beneficiaries are still receiving a paper check, and the agency is working to get that number down to 0 by the end of this year. Here's why that matters to you, even if you already use direct deposit. The reasoning behind this shift isn't just bureaucratic housekeeping. According to the Social Security Administration itself, a paper check is roughly 16 times more likely to be lost, stolen, altered, or returned as undeliverable compared to an electronic payment. 16 times. Think about that for a second. Every single paper check that goes out in the mail carries a real risk of ending up in someone else's hands, sitting in a mailbox that isn't locked, getting misdirected, or simply vanishing somewhere along the way. On top of that, each paper check costs a few dollars to print and mail, which sounds small until you multiply it across millions of payments every single month. Electronic payments solve both of those problems at once, which is exactly why the government has been pushing so hard to get everyone switched over. So, if paper checks are disappearing and electronic payments are safer and faster, what exactly is the warning here? This is where things get important, so listen closely. The shift to all electronic payments means your bank account information now sits at the very center of how you get paid. There is no backup paper check waiting in the wings anymore for most people. If your direct deposit information is wrong, outdated, or compromised in any way, there is no old-fashioned safety net to catch you. Your payment depends entirely on that one piece of information being correct, current, and protected. And that single fact has created an opening that scammers have been racing to exploit. Let's talk about how that actually plays out in real life, because this is the part that catches so many caring, careful seniors off guard. The Social Security Administration's own fraud investigators have laid out a pattern they see again and again, and they actually have a simple way of describing it. They call it the 4 Ps: pretend, prize or problem, pressure, and payment. A scammer will pretend to be someone from Social Security, often using a spoofed phone number that shows up on your caller ID looking exactly like an official government line. Then they'll dangle either a prize, like a special cost of living bonus, or a problem, like a supposed suspension of your benefits or your Social Security number. Once they have your attention, they apply pressure, telling you that you must act immediately, often using scary language about legal trouble, frozen benefits, or an urgent deadline. And finally comes the payment request, where they ask you to verify your Social Security number, your date of birth, or even your bank account and routing numbers, supposedly just to fix the problem or release the prize. Here's what almost nobody realizes until it's too late. Scammers don't always want your money directly. Sometimes what they really want is your account information, because if they can convince you to share your banking details or trick you into thinking you're updating your own direct deposit information, they can quietly redirect your monthly payment into an account that isn't yours at all. One verification call, one moment of feeling rushed or scared, that's sometimes all it takes for your entire monthly income to be rerouted without you even realizing it happened until the day your payment doesn't show up. And these scams are not rare or old-fashioned anymore. They've gotten dramatically more sophisticated. Investigators have noted that fraudsters are now using artificial intelligence to make their calls, texts, and emails sound far more convincing than they used to. The days of an obviously broken English scam letter are fading. Now, you might get a call where the voice sounds calm, professional, even friendly, using real details about Social Security programs to sound legitimate. You might get an email with the exact logo, colors, and formatting that the real Social Security Administration uses. You might even get a letter that looks like it came from an official government office. This is exactly why the Social Security Administration's Office of Inspector General holds an annual nationwide awareness event, because government impersonation scams remain one of the most common types of fraud committed against older Americans every single year, costing real families real money. So, how do you protect yourself without becoming paranoid about every phone call or letter you get? The good news is that once you know a few simple truths, the entire game becomes much easier to spot. The real Social Security Administration will never call you out of nowhere and threaten you with arrest or legal action. It will never demand immediate payment over the phone. It will never ask you to pay using gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers, or cash sent by mail. It will never tell you to keep the call a secret from your family, and it does not require you to fill out any special form or pay any fee to receive your annual cost of living adjustment. That increase happens automatically every year. No action required on your part, no paperwork, no fee, nothing. If something feels off, the safest thing you can do is the simplest thing you can do. Hang up or stop responding, and reach out to Social Security directly using a number or website you looked up yourself, not one given to you by the caller or written in the suspicious message. That one habit alone, verifying independently rather than trusting whoever contacted you first, shuts down almost every version of the scam before it can do any damage. Now let's talk about something else that's changed this year because it cuts both ways, and it's worth understanding clearly. In the past, if you needed to update your direct deposit information with Social Security, whether you switched banks, closed an old account, or simply needed to correct an error, that update could take up to 30 days to actually go into effect. Imagine the stress of switching banks and then wondering for a full month whether your next payment is going to land where it's supposed to. That long delay used to be one of the most common sources of missed or delayed deposits for retirees. The good news is that this processing time has been significantly shortened. Many updates can now be processed in little as one business day. For anyone who needs to fix an error quickly or move their payment to a new account, that's a genuinely helpful improvement. And it's one of the few changes this year that actually works in your favor without any catch attached. But here's the part that deserves a little extra caution. A faster system for legitimate updates is also a faster system, period. If a scammer somehow manages to convince you or manages to access your information well enough to change your direct deposit details, that fraudulent change can now also take effect in roughly that same short window of time. In the old system, a 30-day delay sometimes gave people, banks, or fraud monitors more time to notice something strange before the damage was finalized. With faster processing now standard across the board, the margin for catching a mistake or a fraud attempt before your money actually moves has gotten smaller. That doesn't mean the new system is bad. Speed is good when you need it. It just means the responsibility to double-check who is asking for changes and to monitor your own account regularly matters more than it ever did before. This is exactly why the Social Security Administration has been encouraging every single beneficiary, especially those over 60, to set up what's called a personal My Social Security account online. I know, for some of you, the idea of creating yet another online account might sound like a hassle, or even a little intimidating if you're not someone who spends a lot of time online. But hear me out, because this one step does something incredibly valuable. Once you have your own personal account set up directly through the official Social Security website, Any attempt to change your address or your direct deposit information triggers an alert sent straight to you. That means if a scammer somehow tries to redirect your payment, you find out about it almost immediately, rather than discovering it weeks later when your deposit simply doesn't show up. It also makes it much harder for a criminal to create a fraudulent account in your name in the first place, because that spot is already taken by you. If setting up an online account on your own feels overwhelming, that is completely understandable, and you are not alone in feeling that way. This is a perfect example of something worth asking a trusted family member, a grown child, a niece or nephew, or even a patient staff member at your local Social Security office to help you with. Just once, sitting down together. It takes maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and once it's done, it keeps working quietly in the background to protect you for years to come. Let's slow down for a moment and walk through what one of these calls might actually sound like, because reading about a scam in the abstract is very different from hearing how convincing it can feel in the moment. Picture this. Your phone rings, and the caller ID shows a number that looks exactly like a Social Security office near you. A calm, professional voice introduces themselves as an agent from the Social Security Administration. They tell you there's been some unusual activity on your account, maybe something about your Social Security number being used in another state, or a benefits review that's flagged your file. They sound concerned for you, almost sympathetic, the way a real government worker might. Then they explain that to clear this up quickly and avoid any interruption in your monthly payment, they just need to verify a few details. Your full Social Security number, your date of birth, and the bank account where your payment is currently being deposited. They might even offer to stand the line while you check so you don't feel rushed. That last part is exactly the trap. Real urgency from a real government agency almost never sounds like that. Genuine issues with your benefits are handled through official letters mailed to your address or through your own personal online account, not through a surprise phone call demanding your most sensitive information right then and there. If you ever find yourself on a call like this, here is the single most powerful thing you can do. Simply say, "I'll call Social Security back myself," and hang up. Then look up the number yourself, either from an old benefits letter you've received in the past or from the official government website, and call that number directly. If there really was an issue, it will still be there waiting for you, and you can resolve it safely on your own terms, without any pressure clouding your judgment. The same caution applies to text messages and emails, which have become just as common as phone calls, and in some ways even more dangerous because they give scammers more room to design something that looks polished and official. You might receive a text claiming your direct deposit has failed and asking you to click a link to update your banking details immediately. You might get an email with an attachment claiming to be your annual benefit statement, encouraging you to download it to view your new payment amount. These messages often include real government logos, the right color schemes, and language that sounds professional, because scammers have gotten very good at copying the look of legitimate correspondence. One small but reliable clue is the web address itself. A genuine Social Security link will end in .gov, and if you ever see anything squeezed in between .gov and the rest of the address, treat that as a red flag and don't click it. When in doubt, don't click anything at all. Open a new browser window yourself and type in the official address directly. Let's also talk about something practical that doesn't get mentioned enough. How to actually catch a problem early, even without any fancy alerts or apps. Get into the habit of checking your bank account around the time your payment is expected each month. Social Security payments go out on a fairly predictable schedule based on your birth date, so most retirees know roughly which day to expect their deposit. If that day comes and goes and the money isn't there, don't assume it's a simple delay and wait quietly for days hoping it sorts itself out. Call your bank first to rule out a banking side issue, and if your bank confirms nothing came through, contact Social Security directly through a number you find yourself on the official government website, not a number from a text message, an email, or anything that showed up unsolicited. The earlier a missing payment is reported, the easier it generally is for the issue to be tracked down and resolved. It's also worth mentioning, because so many retirees worry about this without needing to, government funding disputes and shutdown threats in Washington tend to make headlines every year, and every year anxious questions circulate about whether Social Security payments will stop. Historically, Social Security benefits are considered mandatory spending, which means they have continued to be paid out reliably even during past government funding standoffs. That doesn't mean you should ignore the news, but it does mean that a Washington budget fight making headlines is generally not the thing that's going to interrupt your monthly deposit. The things that actually cause delays for individual seniors are far more mundane and far more personal. Outdated banking information, an unreported address change, identity verification issues, or increasingly, a successful scam that redirected the payment without the person even realizing what had happened until it was too late. Now, if you don't have a traditional bank account at all, you have not been left behind in any of this. The federal government still offers the Direct Express prepaid debit card program, specifically designed for beneficiaries who are unbanked. Your monthly payment loads directly onto that card on your regular payment date, and you can use it anywhere a major card network is accepted, including for everyday purchases, paying bills, or withdrawing cash. This program exists precisely because the government recognizes that not everyone has, wants, or can easily access a bank account, and it remains a safe, legitimate, fully electronic option that fits within these new rules. There is also one more group worth mentioning specifically because their situation deserves a little extra patience and care. Some beneficiaries genuinely cannot transition away from paper checks easily, whether due to a disability, a mental health condition, living in a remote area without nearby access to a financial institution, or other real, valid hardships. If that describes you or someone you love, a formal waiver process exists specifically for these situations, allowing continued paper check delivery in limited approved circumstances. If you think this might apply to you, reaching out to Social Security directly to ask about this waiver is absolutely the right move, and there is no shame at all in needing that option. The system is built with awareness that not every retiree's circumstances look the same. One more thing worth mentioning, because so many families navigate this together rather than alone. If you have a son, daughter, or other trusted relative who normally helps you with bills or paperwork, it's worth having one honest conversation with them about your direct deposit setup, ideally before anything ever goes wrong, not after. You don't have to hand over control of your finances to have this conversation. It can be as simple as letting them know which bank your payment goes into, agreeing together on a phrase or signal you'd use if either of you ever felt pressured during a suspicious call, and deciding together that if either of you ever gets a message claiming to be from Social Security, you'll talk to each other before responding to it. Scammers count on isolation. They want you making a decision alone, under pressure, with nobody to check in with. Simply having one other person you trust who knows the basic shape of your situation takes away a huge part of that advantage before a scammer ever gets the chance to use it. It also helps to build a small, repeatable routine around your payment, rather than treating each month as a one-off event you only think about when something feels wrong. Mark your expected payment date on a calendar, the same way you might mark a birthday or a bill due date. A day or two before that day arrives, take 30 seconds to glance at your My Social Security account online, or have whoever helps you with that do a quick check on your behalf. On payment day itself, check your bank account once the money is expected to land. If everything looks normal, you spent less than a minute confirming your peace of mind. If something looks off, you've caught it on day 1 instead of day 30, which can make an enormous difference in how quickly the situation gets resolved and how much, if anything, can be recovered. This kind of small, steady habit matters more this year than in years past, simply because the entire payment system has shifted so heavily towards speed and digital convenience. Speed is a wonderful thing when it's working in your favor, helping a legitimate bank change go through in a single day instead of a frustrating month-long wait. But that same speed means there is less room for anyone, including you, your bank, or Social Security itself, to catch an error after the fact. The responsibility for being the first line of defense has shifted a little more toward you, the account holder. And the good news is that defending yourself doesn't require special skills or technology. It requires exactly the kind of common sense caution you've used your whole life when something seemed too good, too urgent, or too strange to be true. So let's bring this all together because I promised you something at the start of this video, and I want to make sure you walk away with it clearly in mind. The real warning here isn't that direct deposit itself is dangerous, or that the system is falling apart, or that your payments are suddenly at risk just because of some new rule. The real warning is this. As the system becomes fully electronic, faster, and more streamlined, the protection of your payment depends more heavily than ever on a small handful of personal habits. Knowing the real warning signs of a scam call or message never sharing your social security number, date of birth, or banking details with anyone who contacted you first, setting up your own personal online account so you get instant alerts if anything changes, checking your deposit on payment day rather than assuming everything is fine, and reaching out for help from family or directly from Social Security the moment something feels even slightly off. None of this requires you to become a tech expert or to live in constant fear of every phone call that comes in. It simply requires a little bit of awareness, the same kind of healthy skepticism you'd use if a stranger knocked on your door asking for your house keys. You wouldn't hand those over just because someone sounded confident and official. Your social security number and your bank account deserve exactly that same level of caution. Before you go, I want to ask you something, because this channel only works when this community talks to each other. Have you or someone in your family ever gotten one of these suspicious calls or messages claiming to be from Social Security? What happened, and how did you handle it? Drop a comment below and tell us your story, because someone else watching this video right now might be facing the exact same situation, and your experience could genuinely help them avoid a costly mistake. And if you know someone, a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, anyone who relies on these payments every single month, do them a real favor and share this video with them today. A 2-minute conversation now could save them from a heartbreaking financial loss later. And that's exactly the kind of thing this channel exists to help prevent. If this video helped you feel even a little more confident and a little more prepared, make sure you're subscribed to A Tires Guy so you don't miss what we cover next, because we've got more videos coming that break down exactly what's changing with your benefits, your health care, and your retirement income. All explained the same straightforward way, without the confusion, and without the scare tactics so many other channels rely on. Hit that bell if you want to be notified the moment new videos go live. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there and take care of that hard-earned money. You worked for decades to earn it. It deserves to be protected.